Hey everybody. Okay, so I'm in the car once again coming off my prayer walk. And again, if you hadn't seen the last video, I highly encourage everyone to do a prayer walk where, it's just you're walking and you are taking in the sounds of nature, being obedient to the voice of God, listening to what he's saying, not being so distracted by our phones or people or just all the things that call for our attention. So if you are able to get out in nature, if it's only the gym, whatever your circumstances, take at least 15 to 45 to an hour to yourself to just do a walk and listen to God. So with that being said, in the spirit of obedience, I mentioned in one of my earlier videos that I would start trying to be more consistent with my videos. And I believe that it's just something that God is calling me to do, to practice consistency, to be, to say the things that he wants me to say, to share the things he wants me to share. I promised that I would come back with a part 2 of how I became an accidental stay-at-home mom. So here's the thing. Part 2. A recap of the beginning. I wanted to stay home with my baby, and as a result, my husband was thinking that we couldn't do it financially, which I totally understood. I wasn't trying to be selfish or anything like that, but after having my child, there was something in me that just changed. And if you had babies, you know what I'm talking about. Prior to that, I was pro women climbing the career ladders. I stayed at work late. It was just a different mindset. Again, I am not saying that if you do these things, you're not a good mom, you're not a good person. Please don't take it that way. It just was my mindset, and that wasn't what God had for my life. But that's how I thought. I even mentioned how I worked at this Bible college, and there was a course that had come out that was directed towards women. And I actually, I feel horrible to say it now, but I actually looked down on that course because I was like, it is the year of our Lord 2020, whatever it was. And I'm like, who's taking home economics? Like, who's cooking? Who's at home? That was my attitude. And then God just changed my heart. I had my little person. I could not leave him. Oh my gosh, it changed my heart. And then I had another little person, and I was like, I'm definitely not putting this one in daycare. So that's just a very brief recap. If you want the whole story, you can go to the first video, how I became an accidental stay-at-home mom, part 1. So part 2, how God changed my heart, and also how he helped me to change my mindset. So my mindset changed from career focus to home. Everything that I was against, God. It's so funny how there's this saying that I'm sure you heard where it says, if you want to make God laugh, show him your plans. Being a stay-at-home mom was never a thing for me. Also, I thought about it, but I didn't, one, think it was possible, and two, I didn't think that's what I wanted, because you hear the word stay at home and you think, I don't want to be home all day with screaming babies and all of those things. So I left home for college. I don't remember if I mentioned this in the first video, but I left home for college in my 20s. I grew up in a house where, okay, let me back up a little bit. When I grew up, I had a mom who, some of you can identify with this. I did not come out of school knowing how to cook. I knew a little bit, but not really. My mom was like, I don't want to call her an over nurturer. She was an amazing mom, is an amazing mom. I still have my mom with me. But it was like, I'm going to do everything. Y'all just get out the kitchen. It's, it's my kitchen. And she didn't verbalize those things, but needless to say, I did not come out of school knowing how to cook. Grown I graduated at 17, went off to school. I stayed in the dorms first 3 years in college, so I went to the cafeteria or out to eat, so I didn't even have to know during those years. But the last year, when I was a senior, I moved off campus. This is gonna come back into the story, I promise. I moved off campus and I realized, wait a minute, I don't know how to cook. What? So I began to teach myself. Now, years earlier, my grandmother planted that seed in me. She would give me recipes. I had this pretty little yellow box with lace around it and these blue flowers. I can see it in my head now on this recipe box. And I would watch sometimes the cooking channel. That was back in the day before YouTube, where you can just look up everything in Pinterest. And I would look at the cooking channel with I think her name was Vita. It's this Italian cook. My grandmother would cut out recipes out of magazines, telling my age. And that planted a seed in me very early on. My grandmother was also the one who shared love of books with me and learning how to do things on your own. Okay, so that seed was planted in me, but it hadn't germinated yet and it hadn't sprouted up yet. So once I graduated, then my mom started telling me, when we realized, wait a minute, I was prepared, only education, no domestic skills. And then my mom realized, like, oh, wait a minute, oops. And so she started telling me, okay, this is a few recipes that are quick and easy. And so that's when I began to cook. And then I started using my little recipe box that I had and begin to have a love for cooking and learning and teaching myself how to do certain things. So now I'm home. I'm a stay-at-home mom by accident or by design, really. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I am still in this mindset that I have to buy everything. We're out of bread, let me go to the store and buy it. Oh, we're out of butter, let me go to the store and buy it. However, that was not very economical for us at the time because it was a sudden shift. So I did have a severance check that we used, but now we're talking, at this point, my husband was sending off resumes for me. I was going on job interviews. I didn't want to go back to work, but I was thinking, okay, I have to go back to work because we have a new baby coming and we need some money, and I don't want my husband struggling and stressed out by himself, which he never expressed that to me. It was just, okay, I need to help. So he's like, okay, well, let me help you get a job. So he's sending out resumes. I'm sending out resumes. I got some interviews. At this time, I have a slight bump. I'm pregnant with my second one, and my second son. I have a slight baby bump. So I would go and I would have like a jacket, a blazer, and I was trying to cover my baby bump with this jacket because I knew that if an employer saw that I had a baby bump, they most likely, even though it's illegal, I'm sure, but on thinking from their side, this person is coming in and then they're going to want maternity leave and all that comes with a pregnant woman working in the office. So I was trying to cover it up and all of that. So did not get any call back. I went on interview after interview after interview. Nobody called me back. We were sending out resumes, and I really deep down didn't want to go back, but I just felt like I had to. So what ended up happening, I was thinking, okay, while we're waiting in this time, something just clicked one day. I was like, I'm out of bread. I don't have to run to the store to buy bread. How do you make homemade bread? I have flour, I have eggs, I have milk. I've never made bread before, but let me try it. So I started looking up how to make homemade bread. No butter, no problem. I got heavy whipping cream, and I didn't even really know those were the ingredients, but I looked it up. How do you make butter? So God started putting inside of me, changing my mindset. You don't have to go and buy these things. Like, what is in your house? And the lesson that he kept putting in front of my face was the widow who had the sons whose husband had passed away. She went to the prophet and said, hey, my husband passed away. They're going to take my sons. And he was like, well, go borrow the jars and get oil and put oil in it. And the oil kept flowing. And God kept saying, what is in your house? What do you already have? You don't have to go and spend money on buying these things, which actually, once you try homemade bread, is amazing. So I started learning how to make bread. I started learning how to make my own butter. I started learning how to make just recipes that stretch. So now I'm thinking, okay, I can do this, I can do that. I started putting together my kids were very young at the time and they were picky. So what I started making was these, I called them snack boards, I think. Snack boards or snack trays. I can't remember what I called them. But all it was just a mix of cheeses, vegetables, fruits, just different like a sampler plate. Like you go to the restaurant, you have a sampler. It was like a sampler plate, but it was with simple ingredients. I introduced things. I saw what they like, what they didn't like. A little bit of my youngest really liked pasta, so I'd put like a little bit of Alfredo. I even learned how to make pasta. That didn't work out too well, but maybe I'll try it again. Just like different things that I would put, and my sons began to develop a love for fruit and vegetables. To this day, they prefer fruit and vegetables over cakes and they're like things like that. And so that's how God began to change my mindset. And my husband at the time was still, he was seeing how God was providing in supernatural ways, and how our money would just, it was still that it wasn't that it was easy, but he began to break down some preconceived notions, like we can't do it, or that your job is the source of your income. No, God says, I'm the source. Your job is just a resource. I gave you that. I gave you the health and the strength to go to that job. Nothing wrong with that. But understand where your help comes from. Your job is your job provides, but it's through me that it provides. So that's how God started changing my mindset. During the pandemic, this was around 2020 when it was in full swing, people began to lose their jobs. And y'all remember, I know everyone that's watching this remember, it was a scary time. It was horrible. Y'all know, y'all were there. And people were losing their jobs all around us. Jobs were laying off. And my husband was protected and shielded from that. And instead of losing a job, instead of getting furloughed, he ended up getting a better paying job closer to the house. Now we're making a little bit more money. Okay, so now we're making more money and he's closer to the house, and now I have this new mindset. I can make things from scratch. I'm here with my boys. We're not putting all this money into daycare. Okay, God, I see you. And then as the time went on, my husband got a better paying job, and then a better paying job, and then a better paying job. And because of my kids' love for fruit and vegetables, one day I asked my oldest, he was 5 at the time, he was about to be 6. We had just put him in school. I said, what do you want for your birthday? You want cupcakes? You want a cake? And he was like, I want fruit. And my first thought was, okay, edible arrangements. I can see. I look on the website of edible arrangements, and I was like, I'm going to pay a lot of money for this edible arrangements. And those kids in school, I don't know if they're going to eat it or not. And I was like, I can't afford to waste all this beautiful fruit, and these little kids might be like, I want a cupcake. Y'all know how kids are. No shade to the babies. So I was looking, I'm like, I think I can do that myself. I think I can make an edible arrangement. Of course, I couldn't bring it to the school because there are these new rules, like, parents can't bring food to school anymore because of allergies and sanitary reasons and all of that. But I was like, You want a fruit thing? I can make that for you. So that same day, I went home and I made chocolate covered strawberries, and they came out so ugly. They were so ugly, but they were good. So I started teaching myself, okay, how to get the chocolate not lumpy. How does it look like this? How do I do this? And I began to practice. And then people were like, hey, I want some strawberries. Can you make some for me for Valentine's Day? And then I began to make Valentine's Day and birthdays. And then I got a little bit better. And then I started discovering fruit arrangements. Then I saw how to make these watermelon cakes, where you take a whole watermelon, you cut it up, you arrange it. Y'all may have seen it. You arrange it like an entire cake, but it's all fruit. And my motivation also was because my youngest had severe eczema at the time. And so even though he would at that time like cake and icing and all of that, he couldn't really eat that much of it because it would cause flare-ups, and of course I don't want him flaring up. So the fruit, he already loved fruit from little, was a great alternative for him. So I'm like, Lord, maybe I can do something with this, and I loved doing it. Maybe I can turn this into a business. And from that day on, I became known as the Fruitful Mama. And I began to make different things. So now I'm making a little extra money. And I'm not to the point where I am just, huge. I'm not. But that is how I came from being a laid off, transformed, stay-at-home mom, cooking and making things from scratch in the attempt to make healthier things for my kids and also to save money, to the birth of a business, and a business that is not overwhelming and not taking up a lot of time, but it is also something that brings in some extra money. And now I'm learning about business, and so I'll go into how the business side of it, which is where I am now, is even further transforming my thinking, changing thoughts that I had about money, about business, future generations, and things of that nature. So it all started with this little person becoming a stay-at-home mom who didn't think it was possible, who didn't know how to cook, forget baking, what? And to where God has me now. So I hope that encourages someone. I read a lot over and over and over the Proverbs 31 woman. I looked at her story. She was some people say it was different women, some people say it's one woman. I'm really not sure. But what I do know is I am greatly inspired by her story, and I'm greatly inspired by the woman who had what's in your house. So then my question to you in conclusion of this video, because I'm going to come back with another part. What do you have in your house? What has God blessed you to be able to do with your hands? Where is God taking you? And how has he transformed your thinking, where you previously had this frame of mind and now you're thinking different? So those are things to ponder, consider. Share it in the comments if you like. And I will be back with a part 3 and the conclusion of my accidental stay-at-home mom. All right, bye.